What's up, guys? Andrew Evers here. You might know me better as the Squash Man, internet celebrity chef.
Pancake waffle ninja.
I've used an iPhone my whole life. I know that may upset some of you guys, so I'm gonna give Android a shot for a week. Let's see how it goes. So you probably haven't seen me before, and that's because I typically work behind the scenes here at Techno Buffalo, directing, editing, and shooting content for the channel. So why would I switch as an iPhone user to Android? Well, this story goes back quite some time. A lot of the guys in the office wanted me to switch for a while, and that's because every time I've had to shoot B-roll with an Android phone, I have no idea what the hell I'm doing. No idea how to get around the interface, use any of the features. I didn't even know what any of the features were. They eventually got fed up. They took my iPhone, they locked it up. John gave me a Nexus 6P, made me use it for a week. How'd it go? Let's just say I'm kicking back now. I got my Angel City IPA, just poured it inside of my Medieval Times mug, classic drinking companion. Let's go ahead and talk about what happened. So with computers, I'm a lot more flexible. For my own personal work, I use a Windows PC. When I'm on the go, I use a MacBook Air. At work, I'm generally editing on an iMac. So I've operated in both Windows and Mac ecosystems for those. But with phones, I've only used iOS. I've never really tried out Android. So switching to a new mobile OS was very difficult. But then again, it opened my eyes to a lot of new things. The first big adjustment was the fact that there was no physical home button. Not having the ability to just pick up my phone and know immediately where the home button was very weird. It threw me off. After a little bit, I got used to it, and I will say that I actually kind of liked the way that the multitasking button was its own dedicated feature there. So the first few days were definitely the hardest, and that's because I've had my iPhone configured the same way, or at least I've managed to configure it the way it is now over the course of 6 or 7 years. So all of my passwords, all of my apps that I typically use, all of them have all the presets that have been saved in there on iOS since the beginning of time. And going to Android, I had to download everything again. I had to enter all my passwords in, which, by the way, I didn't know any of. It ended up being this huge undertaking that really pissed me off. And I think that was the biggest takeaway that came from me switching to Android, is that having my iPhone made me really stuck in my ways. In one day alone, I had nearly lost my mind trying to get this to work. I was over at Starbucks and I was trying to open up my account information. I couldn't do that, and I ended up holding up the line for about 15 minutes. I ended up going to a football game with my buddies, and of course we had to get our drink on, buy a lot of refreshments, and I was trying to Venmo them, and I couldn't do that because I couldn't remember that password. And this just kept going on and on and on. I had no idea how to get access to my typical apps, so that was a huge frustration. I also missed the convenience of Touch ID for some of my usual apps like banking. And this is the stuff that really made the transition to a new OS especially frustrating, not being able to use the functionality of my phone the same way that I'm accustomed to on an iPhone. About halfway through the week, I started to feel more comfortable. Things were getting easier. And as I was using apps, I found that really the app experience is really not that much different than what I have on iOS. Pulling up Yelp for restaurant reviews is essentially the same. All my social media apps work more or less the same. Snapchat still sucks on Android. Probably one of my favorite features was all the customization options that are available to you on Android. And that's something that I've really liked, that you can set default apps. I wanted that on iOS for a very long time. I tried to do it more or less by I use Outlook for my email, and so I've set my default browser to be Chrome for that, but you're very limited in what you can do, whereas Android gave you flexibility to set anything and everything specific to your needs, which is just something new to me as an iPhone user. I played with them a little, but I found that they ended up making my home screen feel a little too cluttered. But I like the fact that customization is there, that you have those options as opposed to the standard grid layout of iOS. It kind of reminds me of how it is on a PC, where you can arrange your desktop icons in a way that makes sense to you and is convenient. So probably my most frequently used favorite feature on Android was Google Now. And I guess it went through my Gmail and parsed all this information. It found out when I had packages arriving at the office, told me where I parked my car, gave me news recommendations specific to certain topics that I'm interested in, like tech and gaming. And these are all features that I guess I have on iOS. I mean, I have Apple News. I also use Automatic with my iPhone, so that tells me where I parked my car. But I like the fact that just swiping left, it was all available in a convenient, easy to read newsfeed that seemed way more accessible and made a lot more sense to me than it does on Apple, where I'm having to jump between apps. So it just seemed to work better. And I also thought it was pretty cool that it gave me recommendations for relevant news. So when the Olympics was happening, after opting in, it gave me updates on all the medal counts for different countries, events, and so on. So that was really neat. I like that. I did miss iMessage, and I actually had friends that were getting mad at me because my text messages were being received as green instead of blue. And I never really used FaceTime during the week that I was switching to Android, but I've been hearing a lot of good things about Duo as a potential fix for that. So if I were using Android for a longer period of time, I'd probably try that out. But all in all, I'd say, like, despite the difficulty adjusting, it was really cool to see what Android had to offer. And it wasn't an easy week by any means. I had a really hard time getting up to speed, and it was extremely frustrating. There were many times where I thought I was gonna phone out my car window. But it's cool to see what features I've wanted on iOS on another mobile operating system. And I think that's probably the best thing that come out of this experience, is that it opened my eyes to what the other side is like. In a lot of ways, it's better than iOS. I think both ecosystems have their strengths and weaknesses, but I like the customization options that you got with Android, and those seem to be very powerful, and that's what's got me intrigued. So it's really not out of the realm of possibility that I might be revisiting Android for an extended period of time to actually try out those features, see what it's like to use the phone in a long-term situation, and who knows, maybe I'll end up switching permanently. Any other iOS to Android converts out there? What was your experience like? Leave a comment down below. Thanks for bearing with me through my first video. I hope you guys liked it. Give it a thumbs up, and I'll see you next time.